I think scientists are wizards. If you're just doing an experiment at school, there won't be many viewers and it won't be as frequent. Also, the viewing time is short, so you have to include trends that are popular or interesting at the time.
The third session is titled, A New Source of Inspiration and Wonder, and I'm in the science-related YouTubers lab today. Let's take a look at the view of the lab. There are a lot of tools here. You might have seen some of the tools in the anime. We have quite a collection of tools. There is also a Tesla coil. And beyond that, there is some questionable armor. The coexistence of these things is interesting. Is this an electron microscope? Today, I'd like to interview you about the application of scientific knowledge to actually test, try and make various things. My interviewer is Ms. Kazuko Onishi of the Advanced Support Center for Science Teachers, of Tokyo Gakuge University. She is also a junior high school and high school teacher. Our speaker is Mr. Genki Ichioka. So let us begin.
I am Kazuko Onishi of the Advanced Support Center for Science Teachers, and I would like to thank you for your time.
Nice to meet you.
So, first of all, may I ask you to introduce yourself and your experiment?
Yes, I'm ready. Now look here. Here is a clear liquid. Here is this beautiful orange liquid. And I'm going to do this and... Oh, amazing. It's starting to glow. It's very bright. Let's darken it a bit. The whole room is orange. This is called chemiluminescence. As you probably know, it's the same principle as the cilium at a concert. When two chemicals are mixed together, they glow. It's the same as how fireflies' hip glow. I'm uploading new experiments on YouTube 2 to 3 times a week to get more people interested in science. In addition to educational experiments, I also try new challenges as a science artist, such as combining science and music, science and comedy, and many other experiments. For example, I've been playing punishment games through experiments on TV shows, for example, Don't Laugh, Emetic, and London Hearts. I also recreate Pokémon moves through experiments on Pokémon TV shows. Besides YouTube, I use science in various media such as TV, books, and so on, to create opportunities for people to become more interested in processing. Let's do one more experiment. This is a machine that generates lightning, and we can see about 500,000 volts of lightning. Onishi-sensei, please be careful not to get an electric shock. If you think you can do it, it is okay
It's a little
if you
scary,
get an electric
isn't
shock. Then, I'll turn on the power. This is how I played a penalty game with it.
You just touched lightning, but it's okay.
This is wearing a metal glove. This wire is called grounding, and it is transmitted through water pipes to the ground. This is the principle of a lightning rod, so even if lightning strikes, if there is a lightning rod in the house, it will be transmitted to the ground and the inside of the house will be safe. We use this kind of device to conduct various experiments, such as penalty games and other educational experiments.
Thank you for the fun experiment. I was surprised.
This is the kind of thing that I hope will get people interested in science, and that's what I'm doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ichioka.
Thank you for your time today.
I was so surprised earlier. Thank you for a very nice experiment.
Don't you want to touch it?
It's a bit scary. So little bit later.
If you like.
You've created a lot of fun experiments so far. Why did you decide to work in this field of science production and science communication after graduating from university?
Well, I like science from a young age, and I think science is really like magic. I feel that scientists are like wizards. Even if you can't fly on a broom, you can fly abroad with an airplane. If you use a rocket, you might be able to go to the moon or even farther to Mars. With telepathy, even if you can't talk to your mother or father at a distance, you can talk to them right away with a cell phone, or you can talk to them face to face with a Zoom. I think science is a wonderful thing that is useful to people, because it has made it easy to do something magical with science. If the number of people who are interested in science increases and the number of people who study science increases, I think that science and technology will develop dramatically.
Do your childhood experiences have any influence on this?
Well, I started out in science at a very young age, starting with biology. I was interested in science because I loved living things, feeding goldfish and interacting with other living things in my school's biology class. From there, I had the experience of being surprised by science magic and actually doing something, so I was still doing a lot of experiments. I started out on my own, mainly doing YouTube, but because I love science and children, I wanted to take a science course in the elementary school teacher training program at Tokyo Gakuge University and become a teacher. However, even if I were to become a teacher and get a lot of people to like science, I think it would be at most 40 students per class, or even 100 students per grade. But with a science live event, you can communicate the appeal of science to as many as 1,000 or 2,000 people at once. Also, if you use TV or YouTube, you can communicate the wonders of science to tens of millions of people all over the world at once. I think this is a very attractive tool, so I started my own business last year, focusing on YouTube. I hope that the number of people who are interested in science will increase, and the world will become more convenient. In the future, I want to create an amusement park of science, and that's what I'm doing now. Disneyland is fun, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
I think it's great if you go to such a place and you have a good time and learn something. That's why I would like to create a place where people can have fun and learn someday.
You sometimes talk about the science amusement park as a dream of yours on YouTube. I also like science, and I think it would be great if there was such a science park. I think it's a wonderful dream, and I hope you will make it a reality.
In that case, will you cooperate with us?
Yes, let me help you, if I can.
I need a lot of help and I think I can finally do it with it. Thank you very much.
You have a dream of a YouTube channel called Genki Labo, but could you tell us about the generational structure of the audience of Genki Labo?
If you look at this page, you can see that about 80% of the participants are men, and 20% are women. I think it's the men who like to do scientific experiments. In terms of age group, 36% of them are between 18 and 24 years old, and most of them are college students. The rest are from my generation. There are a lot of university students to 34-year-olds. The rest are parents with children in elementary school and elementary school. There are a lot of users in that age group, so I get the feeling that they are young. There are a lot of middle and high school students and elementary school students. And there are many viewers of that generation who have been away from school for a long time.
There are a lot of middle and high school students and elementary school students. And there are many viewers of the generation who have been away from school for a long time. I think science has always been associated with going to the science museum. But when we go to the science museum, we find that it's full of elementary school students, and there are very few junior high school and high school students. I think it's natural that the place to play changes with each generation. Since elementary school children stopped going to the science museum, do you have any precautions to keep in mind when socializing with teenagers or older generations?
Yes, after all, if you just do the experiment as it was at school, the number of people who watch it and the number of times it is viewed is small. If you look at the data, you can easily see that the viewing time is also very short. To get as many viewers as possible for a long period of time, our first priority is to link the experiment to a trend that is popular or interesting at the time. I'm always thinking about how I can connect it to something else, rather than just doing experiments at school. I focus on finding topics that will interest as many people as possible, such as watching new anime on Amazon Prime.
You are very aware of the current trends of the times, and I thought you put a lot of effort into approaching these trends with a broad interest and a scientific perspective.
Yes, that's right.
In recent years, more and more people are searching for new things on YouTube and the Internet. There are many video courses that have emerged. But I think that you are aiming for a completely different kind of expression than the instructors in those courses. What direction are you aiming for as an artist?
Yes, I think lectures are something that you actively choose to watch on your own initiative. In contrast, with YouTube, you can watch things you are interested in your free time. And rather than learning proactively, you can make videos that learn automatically and on their own. For example, if someone searches for Slime or Dragon Warrior and comes to my video and learns something about metal, for example, the next thing I knew, I was learning. I'd like to make such a video.
I thought it would be great to make videos that make people study on their own. It's great to learn about things without even realizing it. For example, it could be a new form of study, one that is easy and natural, rather than one that you have to study.
I would like to make more and more videos where the people studying don't get tired, and they can study a little or study on their own. Today's children have been watching TikTok and YouTube since they were young. Then, looking at the data, I realize that concentration doesn't last long. On YouTube, not so long ago, they used to watch videos that were about 5 minutes long, but after a couple of minutes or 5 minutes, they would lose their concentration and move on to the next one. If you don't take action within a couple of minutes, you'll get bored and move on the next one. With TikTok, it's no longer seconds. If you don't find it interesting after watching it for a few seconds, you'll move on to the next one. So I'm trying to think of ways to entertain people in a few seconds, and that's what I'm doing now. With TV, I used to sit there and watch it all the time, but with YouTube, I just want to go to the next one. I think it's partly curiosity. But on the other hand, I make an entrance that interests people, and once they are interested, I want them to know more about it, so I make videos of my activities.
I think the point of the story is that YouTube is the gateway. And I think that YouTube has tens of thousands of viewers. I thought it's amazing that the content on YouTube, the entrance to the site, has gathered tens of thousands of viewers. This year, I think there has been an increase in the number of opportunities to watch videos on YouTube, due to the influence of Corona. I wonder if the influence of Corona, stay home, has had some effect on the Genki Labs viewers as well.
Yes, I do feel that things have changed a lot. All public schools were suddenly closed in March, and I felt sorry for the children who stopped studying. Can't we make a video to help them learn? So I started uploading it as hard as I could. Up until now, the videos were 10 minutes long or a dozen minutes at the most, but when it comes to one class, it becomes 45 or 50 minutes. Up until now, the videos were 10 minutes long or a dozen minutes at the most. But when it comes to one class, it becomes 45 or 50 minutes. Up to now, in order to keep students interested for 10 minutes, they had to do 4 or 5 experiments, but when it became 30 or 50 minutes, they had to do 20 experiments.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, I struggled at first, thinking about that and wondering how to prepare for it. But then I realized that there was a link between the class and this video making, and new content was born. Since the school was closed in March, April, and May, I didn't want the children to lose their daily rhythm of going to school.
I didn't know that.
So I worked with Benesse to make and distribute a 40-minute video that would be played during normal school hours, from about 8 o'clock in the morning to past noon. We got a great response, partly because we had an interesting experiment. The kids started coming to my channel more and more, at first in March, April, May.
So that was it.
Then it settled down, and with the corona, I made a video about viruses and biological systems, and hygienic masks and disinfection, or in other words, the trend that people are most interested in researching. Originally, the word corona was a little sensitive, and it was like you weren't allowed to mention it from a YouTube perspective. In the beginning, if you put it in, the ads would be removed. That's the kind of thing that happened, but I thought it was still necessary to do it even in these times. There are people who want to know the correct knowledge, and there is a lot of TV coverage, but there is also a lot of wrong knowledge, so I thought that we need to tell people what is correct. I showed one of the videos on masks, and there was a great response because it was easy to understand. We made a model of a cloth mask magnified 2,000 times or so, said the virus is about this size, and threw it to see if it would pass through. By doing that, the number of people in their 50s and 60s who were interested in the program increased, and my channel's audience changed a lot at that time.
So the audience for your channel changed a lot at that time.
Until about March, we had about 100,000 subscribers, and then it grew by about 45,000. It changed into a channel that even the older generation was interested in. But after that, what I really want to do is to recreate fantasy through science, because science is like magic. I was thinking of doing something like recreating anime and magical techniques with science. But the people in their 60s and 70s are a bit far away from that generation, and they are far away from the topic. So, if my video of a scientific recreation of an animation technique appears in the recommendations for that demographic, they won't click on it. I've struggled at times like that, where registrations only grow by a few hundred a month, and some days it's negative.
It's amazing to see the impact of your videos on people of different generations' interests, and it's amazing to see how much influence your videos have had on them. I was amazed at how much influence your videos had on people's interests. Do you have a direct exchange of ideas and opinions with your audience?
Well, basically, I send out the messages and the comments are one-sided, so I can't do much interaction. I've done a lot of reading of comments and developing experiments that interest you. The main thing to interact with is the Science Experiment Kingdom, a recently created community of people who love to experiment. I've started to discuss how to make the experiment. We're not open to the public yet, but we'd like to do this next time, and make a video of it. The experiments that came out of this process have been quite successful. For example, I wasn't planning to do the experiment of the Lebanon explosion, but the viewers and the scientific experiment reporters were interested in it, and I suggested that we do it this way, so we made a video together. That video has about 200,000 views. I thought it's very powerful to create something of interest with a lot of people.
I saw the ammonium nitrate ignition experiment. When I saw your video, I was really impressed by the fact that even something so close to you can be dangerous.
I thought that science literacy could be improved through videos like that. I hope that by watching my videos, people will become more scientifically literate about dangerous things around them, or things that we think of as normal but are actually more scientific and useful, and I hope that they will watch my videos and become more scientifically literate. From now on, in the Science Experiment Kingdom, people who love science come together, so I'll be doing experiments that people can't do alone, such as synthesizing diamonds in the lab, so I hope that viewers will not only be watching, but will also be happy to participate in the experiments.
If you are watching this video, please subscribe to Ichioka-san's YouTube and Science Experiment Kingdom. I think that there are a certain number of people who are interested in scientific experiments, and those people are increasingly coming together. People who are willing to learn on their own initiative are coming to work for you. It's a little bit different from the usual relationship between teachers and students in schools, isn't it?
Yes, it's free to watch YouTube and the comments are free. If you don't like what you see, you don't have to watch it, so it's not like a teacher and student relationship. It's very gratifying and worthwhile when people tell me that they saw my videos and decided to go into science courses, or that my experiments were used in their school classes, or that they saw my videos.
Yes, when you receive such a reaction, your own motivation increases, and you are motivated to work harder and harder. I think it's very difficult to continuously create unique experiments. You mentioned earlier that you have a member of the Scientific Experiment Kingdom, but I'm guessing that you have a variety of experiments yourself.
Yes, I have a lot of experiments that I want to do, 100 or 300 of them. I think the best way to come up with an experiment that you want to do is to take notes. The human brain's memory is limited, so if you come up with something you want to do unexpectedly, if you take a note of it, even if you forget it, you can look at your notes and remember it immediately. Furthermore, if you take notes, you may find yourself thinking of something new while you are taking notes. For these reasons, I encourage you to take notes on a regular basis. Since I started taking notes, the number of ideas I come up with has changed dramatically. For example, the experiments I mentioned earlier by the members of the Science Experiment Kingdom, I'm not the only one, I'm getting information from various sources to create the experiments. I'm uploading 2 videos a week now, but I used to upload 3 a week. And before, I used to make videos with ideas that came to me freely. 2 of the 3 were things I put a lot of effort into, and the other one was just making videos that I wanted to do. But that approach didn't increase the number of subscribers at all, and the do-it-yourself experiment went the other way, and the number of subscribers dropped. From this, I knew that I had to make high-quality videos. Making videos that can't be viewed by many people is the same as not doing it, it's a negative action. I felt that it's necessary to make high-quality content that would be interesting to many people, rather than just doing what you have in mind.
I think it's a very strong message that if you just do something that you're interested in, it's not just meaningless, it's actually a negative thing to do. I think that this kind of thinking, capturing ideas and getting down to the nitty-gritty, was also practiced during your teaching practice while you were at the university. I'm sure that you had the experience of coming up with instructional plans for schools and conducting mock classes during your teaching practice. I think you can do a lot more freely on YouTube than in the confines of a school, don't you think?
When I went to the educational internship, I still wanted to get the children interested in it, so I focused on how to get them interested in it. For example, when I went to a 6th grade education field trip, we did an experiment to melt aluminum with hydrochloric acid, and instead of putting a piece of aluminum foil into hydrochloric acid, we put an aluminum spoon into it.
It's quite a shock to melt familiar things.
Yes, I think they'll notice that these things melt, surprisingly. Also, when I conducted experiments on insects for elementary school students, I didn't just read a book and tell them what insects were, but I had them observe my Japanese stag beetle and Gohanzuno beetle in class.
The boys must have been very excited.
Yes, the girls might be surprised. I thought it would be easier for them to get involved in learning if they actually had that kind of emotional experience, so I incorporated it into my teaching practice. The YouTube video channel itself has become a medium. There are a lot of companies that cooperate with the channel, and the companies give you a budget for the channel, so you can do what you want to do. For companies, it can be an advertisement. For example, that electron microscope is provided to us by Hitachi High-Tech. It's amazing. If you have an electron microscope, you can see the microscopic world. It allows us to see things that ordinary people can't easily see.
The videos you're making have a lot of different content that your audience can't do in school. And you're making a lot of it. The viewers themselves are unknowingly learning, thinking, experiencing, and testing things together while watching the videos. What do you keep in mind when you create these videos?
It's not just about experimenting with the phenomenon as it is, it's about creating a story that excites you. I think about what's going to happen at the end, and I think about a lot of ways to make it exciting, and then I make a solid script. For example, there's a video of a gold nugget bought at Mercurially to see if it's real gold. For that one, we received equipment from Hitachi High-Tech and prepared an elemental analyzer. If you use it, you can find out the elements immediately. But that's not very interesting, so I decided to put it in the end. First of all, I tried to see if the gold nugget would stick to the magnet, or if it was plated, or if it would dissolve in hydrochloric acid or nitric acid. After some thought and trial and error, I finally examined it with an elemental analyzer. This is how we gradually increased the excitement, and they would see it through to the end. Now we have over 700,000 views within a week of its release, and the video has increased by about 20,000 subscribers.
I watched the video as well, and I felt that the use of magnets, scraping, and acid, which could have been done at school or at home, were carefully done. And the script was well thought out, and it was a lot of fun to watch. In March and April, schools were closed due to the effects of the corona. In such a situation, Mr. Ichioka was one of the first to hold an online experiment class for children. I think the fact that the children are applying for this kind of opportunity shows that they themselves are taking the initiative in learning.
I think that they have become more proactive in choosing what they want to watch on YouTube. In the past, it was like watching the family's favorite TV together, but nowadays, I think that children have more independence. I think it's important to create something meaningful from an educational standpoint that they are interested in.
What do you pay attention to in making videos to get children interested in them and to make them feel that they are worth learning?
In order to make the whole story interesting, it has to be interesting, but it would be nice if there was one thing you could learn from that interest. For example, in the case of the cold feeling mask experiment, if there's one thing I want you to learn, it's the term thermal conductivity. If you put iron and aluminum together and heat them up with hot water, the aluminum one transfers heat much faster. It's interesting in one video, but it would be nice to learn at least one thing.
I think it's important to keep in mind that it's important to create a video where you can learn one thing in one video. The phenomenon of chemistry is, after all, a combination of several elements. I think it's quite difficult to explain this part of the phenomenon. How do you pay attention to these difficult parts of your videos?
I think it's about conveying the message as simply as possible. I try to cut out the parts that are too complicated in the editing process, and use sub-channels for people who want to learn more about science. For example, I did an experiment the other day to see what magnets react to. Iron sticks to things, but vegetables and tomatoes and cucumbers repel, which is called diamagnetism. This is because water molecules have diamagnetism. On the other hand, it makes you wonder, what about money? A 1 yen coin, a 5 yen coin, or a 10 yen coin shouldn't contain iron, so it shouldn't stick around. But in the actual experiment, if you stick the 1 yen coin to the magnet and then let it go all at once, an eddy current is generated, and that's where they stick together. If we explain about the eddy currents, elementary school students won't understand at all. That's why we don't release them all at once, but slowly release them to show that they don't stick to each other. To make it as simple as possible, we sometimes cut it down.
You're making an effort to focus on what you want people to pay attention to, without showing any unnecessary information. Here's a little bit of a different story, but it's common in schools to do experiments and study, and then take a test to complete the work. Although the school is doing its job properly, I think it's boring because it's right, and we can't complain about it. I think that not being able to use knowledge proactively by oneself is a frustration. We are told that we need to raise children to learn independently at school, and I think there are actually many children who want to learn independently, but do you have any sense of this?
I think the recent increase in the number of YouTubers means that there are more and more young people who want to be proactive. But I thought it would be difficult to get them to actually take action. In Japan, there are a lot of salarymen and not many people who are independent, and I think that may be part of the reason. If you don't give them a chance to start from scratch, it's not easy to know how to create something from scratch, or to be bold enough to do it yourself. I think it would be great if we could introduce such opportunities in the classroom as well. For example, even an elementary school student can start a YouTuber, or make a YouTube video that is only available to the class. Even if it's difficult to actually film, I think there are a lot of kids who want to perform and be on camera. When they actually complete it and feel a sense of accomplishment, I think they will feel a desire to try something new. If we can create such an environment, it would be wonderful, and more people would want to do it on their own.
Listening to your story, I also thought to be nice to bring out the spirit of challenge in children, so that they can take a step forward, even if it is a small one. Is there something you would like to do in the future, or is there something you would like to challenge?
Robots are becoming more and more advanced, so it would be nice to be able to control a real giant robot with VR goggles as if it were a game. Then there is the use in disasters. If there is a robot that can move like its own limbs, it can go to various places when a disaster occurs in a distant and inaccessible place. I think it would be wonderful if, using VR goggles, we could rescue people by moving a robot in a distant disaster area by itself. With the new tool called 5G, it is possible to do this without being at home. The advantages of being far away from home are great. I think the time will come when these things will become a reality.
In the future, activities such as the Giga School concept and Society 5.0, as proposed by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, will spread to the children. I think this will not be limited to children, but will also include adults learning again, and the field of learning will become more and more digitalized. I hope that you will continue your fun, inspirational, out-of-the-box expressive activities in the future. Thank you very much for a very enjoyable talk today.
ありがとうございました。